Hey everybody, Gary with Basecamp Trading. Let's take a look at a short setup we had in crude this morning. Came into the London session this morning and we were actually on this bar right here on our 30-minute chart. This bar pushed down, hit significantly undervalued on our value chart, left this big bottoming tail and finished in kind of a weak hammer. The body of that hammer was actually still selling, but we left this big bottoming tail. And then the next bar triggered to the upside. We actually took a long trade in crude. The 5 was crossing the 13. We were above the 50, but below the 200. We know that's probably not going to be a big runner, but it still was a nice long setup, good for two targets or $200 per contract. And then crude reversed. It left this big topping tail right here, and then the whole body of this candle was all selling. So this was a very weak bearish bar um, to the downside. 5 crossed the 13 back to the downside. This bar opened right at the top, closed near the bottom, left just a small bottoming tail, but closed near the bottom. This too was a very bearish candle. And then crude went into consolidation. Set up our first bear flag right here, which did not trigger. Set up the second bear flag right there. And this bear flag did trigger, and this one got us into our trade. Triggered under 57.99, and then crude pushed down. We actually hit significantly under value on our value charts again. We know that when we hit significantly undervalued on the value charts that we are most likely going to consolidate, possibly make another little pullback and then leg back down, or reverse. In this case, you can see crude reversed and went strong back the other way. But when we're right in here, we're not sure what it's going to do, but we know that if price starts to stall, that this is a good place to either take profits if we're at a target zone, or at the very least tighten our stops. Well, as it turns out, when we hit significantly undervalued, we were actually at a target zone. On our value charts right here, we had a target zone at 57.48, and I'm sorry, 57.58 was our target zone right here. The low of that bar was 57.60, so it didn't quite hit our target zone. In fact, didn't quite make our fourth target. We shorted at 57.99, and we needed 57.59 to get our fourth target. We didn't quite get there. 57.60 was the low of the bar. So, but we were at a target zone. We were significantly undervalued on our value charts, and so we know that's a place to take profits. This bar actually kind of waffled up and down several times, and it kept bouncing off that 60. So I went ahead and took my runner off at 38 ticks on that one because it didn't look like we were going to break that. And again, we were significantly undervalued on the 30-minute chart at a target zone. Good place to take profits. And then, as you know, crude did end up reversing right there. Our Unirenko is our primary trading chart, and you can see this is when we first came in and crude made that push back to the upside, and we actually took that long trade right there. And then this is where it left that really bearish topping tail, and the next bar actually triggered in here as well, pushing lower. Got the consolidation and the pullback, set up the bear flag. This bar, the bear flag actually triggered on this bar right here. Our wick bar, the low of the wick bar was 58. We take one tick below the wick bar off the 34. You can see we had our fast line zero touch, which means our fast line on MQ momentum had come back to the zero line. The zero line is the line that the histograms move above and below. Gave us a nice momentum reset, which allowed our trade to accelerate in our direction to the downside. Again, we hit significantly undervalued on the 30-minute value charts. Our VSI was oversold and painting dots, which is another heads up telling us that this trade was running out of steam to the downside. Again, good place to either take targets if you're at a target zone, or at the very least tighten up your stops. We took profits down in this area right here, and then crude reverse went the other way. But it was a nice setup with a solid confirmation on everything. Good for almost 4 full targets, not quite full 4 full targets, but over $300 per contract. So we like it when everything lines up and makes the trade kind of a no-brainer. It's pretty easy to take that trade when our value charts were giving us some levels to come off of. Our gravity lines were giving us some levels to come off of. The 30-minute chart had set up a nice bear flag, and we were getting a wick off the 34 on the Unirenko chart. So lots of confirmation, and like I said, not quite 4 targets to the downside, but a decent trade to the downside.